1 2 1 2.
1 2 1 2. Yeah.
1 2 3 4 5.
Just focus on it.
Yeah, because the last time it came on.
One. Yes.
Cricket, lovely cricket, exciting cricket.
One, two. Yes, United Progressive Party. United Progressive Party. United Progressive Party. The United Progressive Party. The United Progressive Party. The United Progressive Party.
1 2 1 2.
The United Progressive Party.
1 2 1 2.
1 2 3 4 5. Captain's Corner. Captain's Corner 1 2 3 4 5.
Captain's
So
Corner.
why don't I give him this and I take? Okay, all right, let's go. Just that it looks better for TV. I hold that as the interviewer. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Captain's Corner. First, we must apologize to you, our followers and our listeners, for the late start, but we're here with you nonetheless. And we trust that you have already called your friends, called your family, and you can share the live. Let us all be part of Captain's Corner for tonight. And I have with me this evening the Captain, Harold Lovell, political leader of the United Progressive Party. How are you?
Oh, I'm very well, and I'm really happy to be here. So, it's another Thursday night. Last week we were in Seaview Farm, but it's good to be here tonight.
Okay. And I generally start off by asking, how are you? What have you been up to?
Yes, I'm doing well, feeling in good shape, and feeling ready to take on the task for the country, Antigua and Barbuda, and ready to really begin representing the St. John City East constituency again.
Okay, and two questions in one. How is the team to redeem, and how is St. John City East?
Well, I can tell you, my colleagues in the Redeem team, we are all very committed, very passionate about the mission ahead, and I can assure the nation that we have a group of committed men and women ready to serve and dedicate themselves to the redemption of this nation.
And as for City East?
As far as City East is concerned, well, we've been around and the cries are all over. The main problem in the City East constituency is water. It's a really, really big problem in water. And people have really had enough. And just touching base with people, I have assured persons that with a change in administration, we'll be able to address this problem and address it adequately. But the other issue in the constituency, the roads have been really dug up, and I'm not sure what's going on. Just recently I passed a stack of steel which had already been tied together and which was just lying there in the bush. I'm wondering, who's paying for that?
Wow.
The other thing is that we're noticing that there's a lot of stagnant water now, and there doesn't seem to be any arrangement for that water to drain off. So it's creating a major problem as far as mosquitoes are concerned. So a lot of people are also complaining bitterly about the mosquitoes. And perhaps what people are complaining about most is the fact that there's been no consultation.
Yes.
People's lives have been severely disrupted with the digging up of the roads, and there's been just no consultation. You wake up in the morning and you meet the whole place completely turned topsy-turvy, upside down. So we just waiting for a change of doing business. The way in which we had it many years ago as a community where the streets were named, all the street names are now down. We'll get them back up. And one thing about our constituency that I feel very good about is that every single street in the constituency is named. So there's no way that you can just not know where you are or in giving directions. But the problem is the names were put up and the streets were named during our time, and now you have a problem where the names are down and some people come to live in the area and they're not even sure what the name of the street is. But all of these things, we're going to make sure that we get the community back up, get the place clean. That's another big complaint, that the place is just not what it used to be. We used to have a water truck that used to hose down the gutters and keep the place clean. That's no longer the case. So most people are really looking forward to a change in this community.
When you move around in your constituency, what is the mood of the people? What do they tell you? And how do they react to you as you move around?
Oh, well, it's an old friendship and an old love affair with almost everybody. I've been around for a while, and I've been able to really pull things back together. I feel very comfortable. I feel the love once again. And it's a community that I love dearly. I've been here. People have encouraged me after I lost the last time to get out of the constituency and go somewhere else. But this is where my heart is. And so I have no intention of going anywhere. And based on everything that I'm feeling and hearing right now, the UPP is going to take that seat, and I'll be elected to represent that constituency next time around.
And you're feeling that from the people?
Yes, I can feel that. I feel the way I felt in 2004.
Very good.
I feel, and of course, I am satisfied that the work that we're doing is work that will make the seat come into the UPP column.
Okay, and we're just as confident because, you know, all eyes are on St. John City East.
Well, I'm not going to disappoint.
Very good, very good. Well, let's move nationally now. Last week at the rally in Seaview Farm, you made a major announcement in terms of one of the policy decisions that a United Progressive Party administration would introduce, which is the MOM program, the maintenance of minors. And I think that has resonated well with the community, and I'm giving you the opportunity to speak and explain how such a program would work. It is, of course, intended to bring relief to minors and to mothers. And one of the concerns that I've seen raised is people are going to say, oh, you're saying $1 million. Where will this money come from for this fund? So let's talk a little bit about this MOM program.
Great. Maintenance of minors. So it's all about the minors. It's all about the children. And this has been a focal point for the United Progressive Party for a very long time. In 2008, we passed the Maintenance of and Access to Children Act. That was in 2008. And we really overhauled the old structure and put in place a completely new framework where the court would enforce what's known as maintenance orders. Now, the framework is already there. And when we passed the act in 2008, it was intended that we would give the mothers the right, which they had before, but it modernized the whole system, to approach the court with an application for a maintenance order. And in making that application, then the court would consider all the factors, but the most important thing would be the welfare of the child. Now, the court had to satisfy itself, wherever you had that type of application, that the father, who in these cases was referred to as the respondent, so the father, the court must be satisfied that the father was in a position to support the child, but he had failed to do so. Now, that's where the whole thing breaks down. Why would the father fail to do so? You have a lot of reasons. You have some fathers, as Antigua said, they're just worthless, right? They just would not look after their children. They can, but they won't. So in those circumstances, we have to find a way to deal with those persons. You have other situations where the fathers are not working. And when you're not working, you're just not in a position to provide for the child. So the issue then is what happens to the child where the father does not support the child, either because they just like that or because they just
Unable
cannot.
to.
Now, the way the system is working at the moment is where you are not supporting your child, where there is a maintenance order for you to support the child, the next step is for you to be taken to prison. The next order is not going to be a maintenance order, is what they call a committal order. And that committal order is to commit you to prison. So when the father now does not feed the child and does not pay the maintenance as according to the order, then the matter is reported to the police, and the police will go and look for him, and they will bring him before the court. And once the court is satisfied that he's in a position to maintain the child, he will be sent to prison. And he can be sent to prison, I think, for up to 6 weeks. But then when you come out of prison, you still have to pay the money. So that doesn't solve the problem.
So it punishes the father, and the child is still left
Right.
unattended.
So now we have to find the right balance.
Yeah.
Because you have to keep some degree of punishment on the books, because you will have persons who refuse to do the right thing, and there must be some way in which this can be dealt with. But our focus now is on the child, the children. What is to happen to them? So the MOM program now, the Maintenance of Minors Act, that would create the opportunity for the children to get the benefit whilst the fathers either get employment, and I'll deal with that, or whilst they get the resources to pay. But they're going to pay that back into the maintenance fund. Now, the good thing is the machinery is already in place. At the moment, you have the maintenance collection account, under the act that we set up in 2008, there's what's known as the maintenance collection account. Now, in that maintenance collection account, once the father pays in the money is placed in the maintenance collection account, and then it is paid out to the mother when she comes to collect it. There's a slight process. It normally takes about 48 hours, turn it around, and then the mother will get the money.
Yes.
But when the father is not paying the money into the court,
account, yeah.
we say no. Here is where the state, the government, has a duty to the children. No one else. To the children. Yes, the mothers will collect, but this is for the benefit of the children. And so there's so many stories where fathers are not working, they're in prison, the children are still suffering, the mother is no better off, and so we would put aside $1 million. Now people are saying, oh, $1 million, where are you going to get that money from? In the scheme of things, we're looking at a budget of approximately $1 billion. 100 million is 10%, and 1 million is 0.1%. I think that's how it goes, right? Now, the whole, I do that to show that for the budget, it represents less than 1%, less than 1%, right? And that is for the benefit of the children, and think of the way in which this will impact the lives of children. When children do not get the necessary maintenance, if it is not paid, you have problems not only with the mother collecting money to buy food and clothing, which are very important, but sometimes you have children with special needs. You have children who will need medicine. You have children who have special requirements. And when the money is not coming in, the children are the ones who suffer. And so, especially to make sure that children do not suffer, this $1 million will be used to fund the program. So that will be paid into what is already existing as the maintenance collection account. We will put $1 million in there, and then that money will be paid out to the mothers based on the maintenance orders that have been made by the court. However, the father, his responsibility will be to pay the money back into the fund. Now, some will say,
the question is, how do you guarantee?
How do you guarantee?
Yes.
Okay. Already, the act is framed in a way that you have what's known as an attachment order. An attachment order now is that you attach to the salary or the pension or the wages of the man, the father. It's already there. And if a man is working, the court already has the power to make an attachment order. So if you work at the Treasury, if you work at a wholesale, wherever you work, the employer will deduct the amount from your salary and pay it directly into the court. So the way we're doing it now is that that money will go into the same account. And in doing so, it replenishes the account. But the children will not suffer in the meantime. So this is the way we're looking at it. But to do it now, we're going to have to make a number of changes.
Before you go there, that's for fathers who are working.
Yes.
What about those who are not?
The fathers who are not working, here is where we need to pull together the Ministry of Labor or the Department of Labor, the Family Court, the police, the Welfare Services Division. All of these must collaborate, and they must work together to find employment for the male. So that what we would want to do through the Ministry of Labor is to treat as a priority unemployed fathers. Unemployment is important, but we have to make sure that fathers who have a responsibility to their children, we have to make those persons a priority. And the government now, we will make the necessary provisions so that we will get a job, we'll find work for the individual father to do. That's our responsibility. But we're not going to punish him if we're unable to help him and he clearly cannot get a job. So the whole system is going to be a fairer system, a more just system, because he now has to look for work. The government will help him to look for work. If the government finds a job for him and he keeps skipping from job to job to job, then clearly this is a person who has a problem. And here is where now you may need to bring out the provisions that allow the person to be sent to prison. Because if it's just clearly a matter where this person does not intend to settle down and feed their children, then the provisions in the act are still there. But what we're providing is that middle ground.
Yeah.
Because most of the men, they do want to work. And so it is building a partnership between all the different services in welfare, police, the family court, all of these services, the Department of Labor,
Yes.
to collaborate and cooperate in order that you can help the man to get some kind of meaningful work, and then the money will come out of that salary that he's paid, and it will be paid into the maintenance collection fund, which already exists.
So, two things. The first thing, what I'm hearing you saying is that there is already a structure of sorts in place.
Yes.
So you're just enhancing
That's
what is
correct.
there.
Because the act is good.
Yes.
But where the act has a gap, is that's where we're going to address it, because it is for the benefit of the children. And the gap is, if the man is in default, prison,
Yeah.
the child doesn't benefit
Yes.
from that. The mom doesn't benefit from that in any way. So here is where we come in. The government takes care of the child, helps the father look for work, take the money out of his pay, put it back in the fund. Meanwhile, the child can get the medicine, the school uniform, the food, the healthy,
The therapy,
the therapy, whatever is
yeah.
necessary. So this is a program that we believe is really part of our overall program to save the soul of this nation. You know, Brother Baldwin Spencer recently was speaking about the soul of the nation, that our real mission is for the soul of the nation. And when we talk about the soul of the nation, central to all of that is our children. And we must make certain that we take care of what is becoming a problem in our society. And so here is where we have to look about things like counseling. We have to make sure, you know, a lot of the mothers, for example, they have their children and sometimes they don't have the coping skills, you know, they hit obstacles, they have
Yes.
problems. So we will enhance the resources in the child care services unit to allow them to be able to deliver the necessary counseling, because the place is terribly understaffed. The resources are not there, and sometimes the reports that you need for the children are taking much too long. So here is where we're going to place a lot of emphasis as a new UPP administration, place emphasis on our children. And this will include, as I indicated, counseling services for parents to make certain that they can, they have the necessary
Right.
skills for bringing up their children. Because, you know, in the old days, the grandmother, the mother, there was the extended family, and so you could look after the children, not necessarily through the mother and father themselves, but so many of our generation
Yes.
were raised by grandparents. But now a lot of that is not happening because the grandparents themselves have to be out working.
Correct.
So these
And
are things.
grandparents are younger nowadays.
That's right. So these are things that,
Yes.
that we are very mindful of. And then early childhood education
Correct.
is another area that we will be putting a lot more emphasis on, making certain again that the children from that very, very early stage of their lives, that they are able to deal with this issue of early
Yes.
education, preschool education, because I think the statistics show that children who have had the benefit of that preschool education, they tend to be the ones who do better than those who do not. So it's a whole, as they say, a holistic approach, focusing on children and making sure that we look for the soul of our nation, and we begin with our young children, and of course it extends to the elderly and all those who are in need of care, and the nation as a whole.
We're due our first break, but when we come back, I want for you to address what might likely be a criticism that this could be another social welfare program. And secondly, what happens in the case where the mother is the breadwinner, the father is the breadwinner, and a mother might seek to have, whether this program will be extended to mothers. Well, I'm saying the mother is the father being the
I
caretaker.
understand what you mean, yeah.
So what happens in the reverse? So we're
Of
going to
course.
take a break, and then when we come back, we address those
Sure.
two issues. We'll be right back with more on the Captain's Corner.
It's time to join the family at the People's Cooperative Credit Union Limited. We offer
noticed
savings
nobody's saying
accounts,
to look at the
deposits,
camera.
fixed deposits, loans, among other related services. You can even become a shareholder by purchasing a minimum of 50 shares at $5 per share. Membership is super easy and convenient. Just visit our newly opened credit union building on Upper Newgate Street, Monday to Fridays, 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. with proof of ID and address, along with $15 to cover registration and passbook. And you'll be set and on your way. For further information, call 462-8888 or 727-2285. People's Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Today, tomorrow, together.
Cricket, lovely cricket, exciting cricket comes to the South on Easter weekend. It's the Honorable Jamal Pringle Constituency Softball Cricket Championship. The Sweets playing field will come alive with teams from Old Road, John Hughes, Sawcalls, Sweets, Follies, All Saints and Mattis as they battle for the Honorable Jamal Pringle Constituency Softball Cricket Championship. Easter weekend, April 15 to 18 at the Sweets playing field, 9 a.m. daily. Cricket, lovely cricket.
I just feel like people not understand me. I don't want to even give me a chance. Go to school, my hard skill. I'm a hard worker, but there's just not enough jobs out there. The economy is so bad that I'm ashamed to say that we're in the year 2022 and water hardly one near the pipe. Now them can't tell how we, in order to get a job, I must take the job. I understand the vaccine is a good thing and all that, but I just hate the fact that it's mandated. It's my body, it's my choice. I shouldn't be denied a job, education or benefits because the choices I make for my body. For me, this time, personally, the UPP is the right choice because they are the party of choice. I just feel like people not understand me. I don't want to even give me a chance. Go to school, my hard skill. I'm a hard worker.
Some might consider it a welfare. I just want to refer to one of the posts on Facebook, if you don't mind, that you can react to directly. And this person says the MOM program is the American program. This program have not worked in the U.S. for black families. It has continued to foster division among black families. Black men resent black women and women abuse the system. We need to stop following these systems that were put in place to keep black families apart. Family court and the police listen to the sound of that when it comes to families. It has not worked and will not work when it comes to promoting real family unity.
Nah.
What's your comment to that?
No. I understand what the person is saying. I appreciate, I'm trying to figure out exactly where they're coming from.
Well, first of all, is it a welfare program?
It's not a welfare program, even though it deals with the welfare of children. But it's not like a welfare check. I think the person is probably thinking that this is, a welfare check like what you have in the United States, whereas they say, some persons abuse the system. In many countries, I know in England you also have that where unemployed mothers can get a benefit, and it's similar to like an unemployment benefit. This is something completely different. There was a different discussion taking place where someone had suggested that what we needed was a system that did just that, give a welfare check to single moms. That's not what this is about. This is not about a welfare check. This is about the government looking about the needs of the child, but the father having to put the money back in once he's working. And even if he's working and there are issues with respect to him paying, the attachment order attaches to his paycheck and comes back into the system. So what it does, it looks after the children and allows the fathers to exercise their responsibility once they're in a position to do so. And then the state or the government exercises that authority and that responsibility by assisting the person to get a job, and then so you can take the money out and put it back in. I really would hate to think that this person is saying that it is better to leave it as it is now, where so many children suffer. And as I said, I'm speaking from experience as an attorney. I have represented mothers who have to take fathers to court, and I've represented fathers who've been taken to court. So I've represented fathers who are working but not paying. I've represented fathers who are not working and who are not paying. And I've represented fathers who are working, who were paying, stopped paying, or etc. The point I'm making, no two cases are alike. And the child in the end is the one that we have to look out for. We shouldn't be thinking negatively like what that individual was suggesting. We should be looking in terms of how can we make certain that children don't go hungry and not in torn clothes, that if they need medicines, they can get medicine. If they need school fees to be paid, it can be paid. If you need things like textbooks and so on, all of those things that have to be done.
So what happens in the case when the roles are reversed?
Okay, the law already provides for those situations. It's just that in 99% of the cases, it's the man who is not providing this support. But in the 1% of cases, you would have, of course, the women who also have an obligation to feed or to maintain the child, because it's a shared responsibility. So in those cases, the law would just be applied in the same way. But the point that we must not lose sight of is that in 99% of the cases, it's the man. And I've never had to represent a woman in those circumstances. I'm assuming that they, in my experience, is 100% of the cases are men. But I'm assuming that there may be one or two.
Yeah, okay. All right. I mean, there's so many things for us to talk about tonight. I want for us now to shift our attention over the waters, and then we're going to come back home. Barbuda. Last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago, the Prime Minister, in one of his utterances, in his outings, stated clearly that the plan for the Antigua Labour Party is to have persons who are now working in Barbuda become registered in Barbuda to vote, so that we can have a result different to what we have had over the years, where there's a one vote difference and that sort of thing. I have heard the Honourable Trevor Walker coming out clearly saying that it's something that they're keeping their eyes on and will try to fight to the very end. I would like to get your take on that.
The Prime Minister and the Labour Party are clearly desperate. And so what they're doing now, they're going to try every known trick in the book in order to give themselves an unfair advantage. What the Prime Minister is saying is foolishness. The law is very, very, very clear. Our voting is based on residency. That's what it's based on. If you are in a constituency and you own a business, that doesn't give you the right to vote in that constituency because you own a business and you earn an income in that constituency. If you work in that constituency, it does not give you a right to vote in that constituency because you work in that constituency. You must be resident, ordinarily resident in that constituency. And so you must have decided, and there are a number of cases that will guide the court, if it has to go to court, as to what constitutes residence. But for sure, residence is not coming over to work in the day and going back in the evening. Residence is not working over the period of the week and going back home on the weekends. That's not residency. Residency is where you are. You pack up your bundle, your Georgie bundle, and this is where you now live. And I would think that there may be one or two who may have migrated, but to suggest that there's this mass of workers who are now going to qualify to vote in a different constituency, namely Barbuda, because they commute to work, that is utter foolishness. And he's really just misleading people if he knows what the real situation is.
I can't even give an example in Antigua because Antigua is such a small landmass. But I'm thinking of a place like Jamaica, for example, where persons from the rural area commute to Kingston, but they are not, you understand?
Of course.
There's a difference, but these are people who every day go back and forth via the sea, but they come back home to live. But perhaps you need to make it clear what it is that the Representation of the People Act says when it comes to being resident in a constituency.
The Representation of the People Act says that you must be ordinarily resident in the constituency for a period of 6 months. You must be resident there for 6 months in order to qualify. So the mere fact that you've been working there for the past year or the past 6 months, that wouldn't be enough to allow you to qualify. You must be resident there, not just working there for 6 months.
Okay, so obviously the Prime Minister would have exposed his hand in terms of their attempts at voter padding. Would you put it that way?
Well, that's what it's all about. And, you know, we see it happening in other constituencies also. In fact, just today, somebody was telling me about a particular apartment block where persons have entered into a 6-month contract with the landlord, and it is pretty clear what it is that they're trying to do. But we're going to watch these situations very, very closely. We know what the law is, and so we're going to make sure that any attempt to circumvent the law, we're going to challenge it and challenge it vigorously, because the Representation of the People Act provides for claims and objections. And so we will make objections wherever there's an attempt to rig this election and to use unlawful means in order to pad the list. So we have to be vigilant, and we will continue to keep our eyes open.
Well, the Prime Minister some time ago had asked you to call he's allowing you to call the election date. And you for some time have been saying, call the election now. What's your date?
I am saying to the Prime Minister that the election should be called now. That's my date.
Okay, no.
Call the election now.
Yes, yes.
That's my date.
So you think he's a little nervous?
The Prime Minister is very nervous. The whole idea was for him to call the election either late last year or early this year. Persons who are close to him, they know that is what he was hoping to do. But he got the clear picture that there is an issue with respect to the mood in the country. And if you notice, all of a sudden he's rushing to fix the water because, you know, people are fed up. They have had 8 years to fix the water, and they keep fooling people and saying that it's about drought. It's nothing to do with drought. It's everything to do with mismanagement. 90% of our water comes from the sea. There's no drought in the sea, and we have to keep emphasizing that so people understand this is not about drought. Drought was when we were relying on dams and ponds, potworks and other places, and then these, when they dried up, obviously it would affect the quantity of water that you have. The real problem is that the water that should be produced has not been produced because they've allowed the plants to run down. Now they're frantically, since the UPP and myself in particular, since I came out and I spoke about some of those problems, they're now frantically fixing the RO plant up at Crabs, trying to bring it back on stream. There's a tank there that has been out of commission almost for the past 3 years, I think. And they're only now beginning to think of those things. We have the big storage tanks that the UPP left that they have never connected. Why weren't they connected? Those tanks, had they been connected, could have brought real relief to people. So people are fed up. The Prime Minister knows people are fed up. He's hustling to try and fix the water problem, but there's so many other problems that people have.
Someone said to me earlier today, when you go on Captain's Corner tonight, ask the captain if he knows of anyone who would have benefited from the government water tank program. Of course, a program which was suggested, first of all, by the United Progressive Party.
Yes.
Yes.
And, you know, what they're doing is absolutely disgraceful. Now, we're happy that people are getting tanks. That's part of the program that we had already put out there. And it's only after we put out our suggestions to bring relief to people so that we can have a water program that, you know, includes tanks and pumps and making it easy for people at the level of the household to improve their water catchment ability. Now, here it is, they're giving out these tanks. And if you look at the way they're doing it, I mean, I know of representatives who have called people, oh, I have a tank for you. And they themselves are the ones who are giving out these tanks, as though it's Labour Party tanks. These tanks are paid for by the taxpayers of Antigua and Barbuda through Chopper. It is Chopper who's paying the agency that is paying for these tanks. And the system should be one, like when we have our system in place regarding school meals, the uniform program, the People's Benefit Program, we set up systems and we set down the rules and regulations, and anybody, regardless of your political persuasion, your race, your religion, your place of origin, you go and you get your benefit. Now, if it is that they have a program where they're giving tanks, the tanks should be given to the people who need tanks. And if you need a tank, you should be able to go and apply for a tank, and you get a tank because you need a tank. But what they're doing is the ministers are handpicking their people, and they're saying, tank for you, no tank for you, tank for you, no tank for you. That's ridiculous.
So you're saying
That's
then
ridiculous.
that there is no system of application and assessment of need?
No, it's all about politics. It's all about desperately trying to hold on to power using the resources of the state. Chopper is paying for those tanks. It should not be the preserve of any minister to be walking around and saying who should get tank and who shouldn't get tank. It's nonsense. The ability to get a water storage receptacle should not be based on the political party that you support. It should be based on the need, your need and your family's need. That's what should be done. This government just has to go. Everything they do wrong. Everything they do, it's based on handpick, favoritism, who can get a benefit out of it. I bet you're going to find some of those tanks are going to be siphoned off, and you're going to soon hear people selling tanks at a price below what they're selling them on the market outside. Once the tanks, you're going to hear them say the tanks run out. And then once you hear that, you're going to hear somebody down the road selling tanks. That's the way these people operate. They don't do anything unless there's a hustle involved for somebody.
And you talk about, you know, all these missteps. I want to draw your attention now, as you might be aware, as to what has happened at the University of Health Sciences, the invasion, as I call it, of government officials on this private property. What was your first reaction when you heard about it?
What happened is absolutely outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. I mean, these people are getting high on their own vapors. They seem to think that they can just do anything in this country and get away with it. Now, how does a minister of government or a cabinet decide that they are going to take over a medical school that is in operation? That the people are in operation, and they've been there, I think, since about 1982. I think they said it's about 40 years or something like that, that they have been in operation. It is the only black-owned medical school in the entire Caribbean. It is the oldest medical institution of learning in Antigua in terms of offering that level of training and qualification. The fact is, they were affected by the COVID pandemic. They had a graduation up until 2021. This government, they don't see the need to even engage. I mean, I've never seen anything like this in my entire life, where you would have thought that they may have even approached these people and said, look, we have some people who would like to invest in a medical school. Are you interested? Would you like to talk about it? Can we build some sort of partnership? And then the folks said no. And then at least you said there's some sort of standoff. But I'm hearing that the minister is saying he doesn't even need to speak to these people. He's bringing in people to take it over. He's going to just take it away from them. I mean, who do these people really think they are? Now, if we allow these folks to get back in office for another 5 years, you can imagine, they will just walk around and kick people. They'll walk around and take up what you have. They say, well, you don't need it. I need it. Kick you and take it away from you.
And what message does that send to current investors and potential investors?
Well, it sends a very nasty message, because what it says is that a minister of government can decide to enter your property at any time. He doesn't need to inform you beforehand. He shows up. He walks into your place. He goes into every room. He looks up and down. He searches the place as he likes, and there's no redress. And then he says that he's going to take it over, and he's going to get somebody to come and inject money and go away with it. These people, they are carrying out renovations. Most of their classes are online. And it is really untenable that a government could operate in this way. And I hope the operators of the University of Health Sciences, Antigua, will not allow this matter to rest here. I hope they will take this matter all the way and stand up for their rights, because they do have rights. And the government, even if that is their intention to acquire it, there's a process. And if that is something that they desire to do, we would have thought that there would have been some consultation and some agreement on the part of the persons who currently occupy the premises. You cannot just determine that they are no longer suitable. So you are bringing in people now from, I think it's wherever they're bringing them from, to just say, we have new people and we're going to take it over. That is totally, totally unacceptable. And it spells a very serious turn in this country, that we have some people who are running Antigua and Barbuda who now believe that the place belongs to them, and they strut around and they believe that nobody can stop them. And you know, I believe there may be another side to this story. What's the rush? Why would they want to do it in this way? What have they promised these people? And perhaps more importantly, what have these people promised them?
Hold that question. We'll take it up as soon as we come back from after the break. And I just want to remind those persons on Facebook, you can remember, if you have a question that you want to have addressed this evening, feel free to send your questions or your comments, and we will have the captain address them for you as we go forward. So we're going to take our second break, and then we'll be right back.
That no one, absolutely no one in our country will be vaccinated if they do not wish to be. We uphold that right and respect it.
You hear lie? That is lie. Lie? You hear lie? We come and vote them out. 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 We gonna vote them out. We come and 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 vote them out.
Join us for the next episode of The Right Choice on UPP YouTube TV. Wednesday, 20th of April at 8 p.m. with special guest, the Honorable Jamal Pringle, Member of Parliament for All Saints East and St. Luke, Leader of the Opposition and Deputy Political Leader. The Right Choice, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. on UPP YouTube TV.
I just feel like people not understand me. I don't want to even give me a chance. Go to school, I have skill. I'm a hard worker, but there's just not enough jobs out there. The economy is so bad that I'm ashamed to say that we're in the year 2022 and water hardly one near the pipe. Now them can't tell how we, in order to get a job, I must take the job. I understand the vaccine is a good thing and all that, but I just hate the fact that it's mandated. It's my body, it's my choice. I shouldn't be denied a job, education, or benefits because the choices I make for my body. For me, this time, personally, the UPP is the right choice because they are the party of choice.
To the Captain's Corner with your political leader, Harold Lovell. And before we went to the break, we were talking about the what had happened at the University of Health Sciences. And what I found interesting is that my understanding is that there had not been any communication from government with the UHSA, and you know, they just show up. So you were making the point.
Yes, there's no communication, no correspondence, no discussion, just rudeness, just arrogance, just the beginnings of this tyrannical behavior. We have some people in Antigua now running this country, and if they're given another opportunity, trust me, they're going to become even worse. I mean, if you think tyranny is something that is only in a textbook, look to see what's going to happen if we give these people another chance. They have already shown that they will do anything to achieve their ends. And they don't have any respect for the rights of others. They have no respect for the law. And it seems as though they're prepared to just walk roughshod over people regardless of what the law says.
Okay. There's so many troubling issues. I go back again to the Prime Minister and of his many utterances. And it worries me, and I know other persons have spoken about it, when a Prime Minister is able to say that he can call a bank and get information about anybody and about anything. Let's hear your reaction to that.
No, I mean, again, the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda is really taking this country down a road of disgrace. Nowhere else would you hear a Prime Minister talking about he called a bank. And this is not the first time.
Yes.
I mean, we're hearing the situation with respect to our dear sister, Pearl Quinn, where he can brazenly say that he called a bank and he got information, confidential information, which, by the way, is a total lie. But he's able to say that he got information from a bank and names the bank, and then goes on to say that somebody had something on their record and all the rest of it. How could he do that? And how can a Prime Minister be allowed to get away with that type of behavior? He did it in relation to D. Giselle Isaac, where he went on radio, called out her personal bank information, social security card number, all her confidential information, just called it out on the radio. And he threatened a bank manager in Antigua not so long ago, simply because somebody said that she had made some kind of comment about this Prime Minister. He sent back a note to threaten the lady. And these are the things that he's doing, and he's undermining confidence in the financial system in Antigua, undermining confidence in the banks, undermining confidence in the rules of confidentiality. And he's trying to put himself in a position where he's going to be the sole power in the banking sector. And that's because, if you see what's happening, we only have one international bank now, which he doesn't have some serious control over. But you have ACB, okay? The government really has no direct interest in ACB, and I hope ACB will be able to maintain its independence. But we heard him in Parliament recently, where he was reading out this particular bill. And he said, wait, this is the interest rate they're charging? They can't charge us that interest rate. They have to lower that interest rate. Again, please, you're the Prime Minister, you're the Minister of Finance. You negotiate a loan agreement with a banking institution, and then on the floor of Parliament, you're going to say that you're not paying that. They have to lower it. So
when that was the agreed rate.
Exactly. You're putting pressure now on
Public
a bank
pressure,
to make decisions which may not be business decisions.
Yes.
The bank has a board. The board is a qualified board, good people, and he is pressuring them from the floor of Parliament, saying they cannot do that. And the bank put in a proviso in that bill, if you remember,
Yes.
to state that they're not doing any more lending like this.
Correct.
Because it takes them above the rate that they should have in relation to the level of exposure to the government of Antigua and Barbuda. So they were saying the government is not getting any more money. If you read between the lines, what you're hearing there is, look, this is the last time we're going to do this. We're not doing it again. So they're under pressure. You look at ECAB. He's been on the radio pressuring the board of directors at ECAB because what he wants to do is turn the preference shares into ordinary shares. What that means, in effect, he wants to give voting rights, greater voting rights to the government. And then once the government has greater voting rights in ECAB, he, as the Minister of Finance, is going to have an enhanced power and have a greater say and be able to pressure the bank. Then you look at CUB. Government is the main shareholder in CUB. So again, he has the main say in that. So you're going to find, if he has his way, he's going to bully all the bank managers. He's going to bully the people who run these institutions. He's going to demand information from them and then spread people's confidential information on radio as he sees fit. That doesn't happen anywhere else in the world. And I believe this is a matter that the Bankers Association ought to look into. I believe that they should be able to look at this and know that this is clearly wrong. And it should not just necessarily be one particular banking institution, because the principle affects all banks. And I strongly believe that the banking fraternity should have something to say about this very, very troubling trend that we are seeing developing here with the Prime Minister and his reckless behavior in relation to people's confidential information.
When we look at the state of affairs in Antigua and Barbuda, everything seems to be going wrong. Everything seems not to be working. Let's talk about a UPP government taking over at a time such as this.
The UPP took over the government in 2004 when the situation was dire. There was a case where the civil servants and public servants as a whole were not being paid on time. Salaries were very, very, very late. And those were all problems caused purely by mismanagement. They owed everybody. The infrastructure was crumbling. So it's a situation very similar to what we have now. What we have now is a situation where the government is hiding the truth from the people, but the situation is really dire and desperate. I have spoken about the school meals program. The school meals program is on its face. They cannot get anybody in town to do business with them because they owe everybody. You look at solid waste. You can't get regular garbage collection because of the way people are owed. You turn to the workers in the government sector. You had the quarry workers, the people at the asphalt plant, all of them. But you know, fundamentally, I have spoken to many of the aggrieved workers, especially those from public works, listening to their cries. But what I hear coming out from a lot of what they say, this is really a response to inequality. It's not only that things are tough. Everybody knows things are tough. They know things are tough. And they're talking about that. But what really irks them is the inequality. They say that they can't get paid, but you have certain individuals who are close to the Prime Minister and close to government ministers. They can walk into the Treasury and they can get a check for 6 figures and in some cases 7 figures, and they can't get a 5,000, a 8,000, and small amounts that are owed to them. They can't get it. But you have others who are favored, and this came through all the conversations that I have had. They're looking at, they say, the Prime Minister, look at him, he's flaunting his wealth in our face, in our faces. We can barely make it. And he says it's nothing if his son is making $40,000 a month. They say we don't even make that in a year. And look at how they're making the money. They're making the money through rental agreements, sweetheart rental agreements, out of Jennings, state insurance, State insurance paying them something like $30,000 a month. Then you have the Cubans occupying the apartments, and medical benefits is paying them another $35,000 a month. Then you have APOA bringing in perhaps another $15,000, $20,000 a month. And he's cornered off everything for his family, so that they're the ones who are benefiting. They're happy. But you speak to the average Antiguan and Barbudan out there, and things are tight. And so when you ask me, what's the response I'm getting from people generally? That's the response I'm getting. People are saying, boy, they've never had it so tough in this country. But a lot of it is a response to the blatant inequality, the blatant favoritism, the way that only a handful of people are doing well, and the vast majority are really, in a very, very tight bind, trying to make ends meet. That's what people want relief from, and that's where the United Progressive Party comes in. And so a UPP government coming into a situation like this, one of the first things we would want to address would be the welfare of the people, making sure that people's needs are being attended to. We would fast track urgent local and foreign investment, creating employment for people. We would make a certain amount of funds available so that our local entrepreneurs can get up and running, can provide for themselves, can create jobs, can make certain that some of the burden comes off of the government. And all in all, we have to make sure that we look about the needs of our people, we have to invest in the economy, and we have to make certain that we manage the money right, reset our priorities, so that the well-being of our people becomes the main focus of a UPP administration. We would put away any semblance of self-enrichment. We made the point very clearly. Business is business, service is service. If you come into politics, you come in to serve. You don't come in for business. If you like business, a UPP administration is going to be in love with you, because we are going to make sure that we make the ease of doing business in Antigua and Barbuda something that everybody is proud of and happy with. We want to make it easy to do business, easy to invest, easy to be successful, but that's not for you in government. In government, your job is to serve, and that's what we intend to do, to serve the people of Antigua and Barbuda and make Antigua a fair and a prosperous nation.
And for basic social services to be available.
And for basic social services to be available. Absolutely. We're seeing the fire service fall apart. One fire truck. We know people who, just yesterday I was told about someone, a friend of mine, who fell ill, and they called the ambulance, and the final response was, after waiting for a very long time, was no ambulance is available. Where are all those ambulances? Up to 8-9 years ago, when we were in office, we completely refleeted the emergency medical services. What has happened to all of that? So everything is falling apart under this administration. They are, in my humble opinion, the best example of incompetence and arrogance married together, where the only result is hardship on the people.
I want for us to look on the brighter side, because the last election, the UPP was had the tagline of delivering hope. This time we're looking at redemption, the Redeem team. Talk to the people of Antigua and Barbuda and let them know why they must vote for a United Progressive Party administration party come next election.
The UPP represents the only choice for Antigua and Barbuda at this time. We've seen what the Labour Party has to offer. They've been there for the past 8 going on 9 years, and we can tell that they are bad news for Antigua and Barbuda. The Labour Party have not been able to bring any meaningful investment to this nation. They promised more investment. Where's the more investment? It's simply not there. They promised more jobs. Where are the jobs? They're simply not there. They promised that they would have less taxes. What we've had instead is that they have increased the rates and charges for just about everything that you do in Antigua. Now, that's what you call a failed experiment. The UPP, we stand on our record. We look at what we did in our 8 years, our first 8 years, the amount of investment that we brought to this country, the amount of new properties that we developed. And whilst we were working on the economy and building a successful economy, we were looking about the needs of our people. We made certain that we introduced social programs to benefit our people, showing that we are a caring, people-first government. The school meals, school uniforms, increasing pensions, all of those things. So we've done all of those things, so we stand on our record. Now, in the future, we will revolutionize this country in terms of transformation, transforming the economy, creating new sectors like a successful aviation services sector. We will revolutionize agriculture and make agriculture and agro-processing a feature of our economic landscape here in Antigua and Barbuda. We've already put plans in place for a new UPP administration around the port for a packaging and processing center, creating more employment for our people. We will introduce programs like the MOM program to look about the needs of our children, making sure that they're taken care of. We will look after our elderly. We have some exciting programs to take care of the seniors in our society. We will make certain, not only will we make hard finance available through investment, but we will also invest intellectual capital by pooling ideas, bringing people together, creating new opportunities, especially for those who want to get into their business, but also for all persons in Antigua and Barbuda who look for a better life. So all in all, I can say the future under UPP administration, we know what to do. We've been there before. We inherited a Labour Party government where we had to take over and we were able to fix it. We can fix it again. And we just need to be given the opportunity. And I can say to this nation that we have a group of committed men and women who are talented and capable and able to do the job.
So in other words, UPP, the right choice.
UPP, the right choice.
Okay. What else, and without giving away too much, can we expect from the UPP campaign? People meet us all the time and they said, yes, we're ready. What next? And of course, we're hoping that the election is sooner rather than later.
Well, we're ready for the election, and we're telling this administration and the Prime Minister in particular to call the election. He had wanted to call it, but he's afraid to call it. And we're saying to him, come and call it. We're ready for you. So if you think that you are going to win all seats, as you say, call the election if you're so confident. Call the election. As far as the immediate future is concerned, we're gearing up now for Labor Day. And we just want people to stand by, because we're going to make sure that for Labor Day, the United Progressive Party will be out there and we'll be giving our full support to the Antigua and Barbuda Workers' Union. And we want our people to understand that the workers of this country no longer have any confidence in this government. And so we're going to make sure that we make this a no confidence event, that we will get our people to say in no uncertain terms, we have had enough. We have no confidence in this government, and this government must go. Call the election now. So all I'm saying is, let's gear up and let's get prepared to give this government a clear signal that their time is up and we no longer have any confidence in them.
That is such a good way to end, but I would want you to give your final word before we end tonight's program.
My final word is, good night.
I did say word, but those are words. Harold, we want to say thank you so very much for another exciting edition of Captain's Corner. I know the people are always wanting to hear more from you. And I wish you all the best. I wish you all the best as political leader. I wish you all the best as the candidate in St. John's City East. Because as I said, all eyes are on St. John's City East. And you just need to know that we're all behind of you to make sure that that seat comes home. So again, again, thank you for being with us on Captain's Corner. And for those of you in Radioland, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, whatever portal it was that you used to be with us this evening, we thank you so very much. For those of you who have been engaged in that active discussion on Facebook, thank you very much for joining that way. So until we come your way again next time, I'm Sean Nicholas saying goodbye.
Died when I was just 5 years old. My mother came from Willikie's village. She had 5 young mouths to feed, and she toiled on her sewing machine to make ends meet. She was a strong woman who taught us right from wrong. And even though she struggled, the choices she made put us on the right path. I made the choice to work hard, play by the rules, and get an education. I had a number of opportunities, but I chose to return to Antigua and inspire the next generation. I taught at the Antigua Grammar School, and it's here that I saw firsthand how education transforms lives. I made the choice to get into politics because of the lack of resources that I saw in our schools. I saw how our teachers and families struggled.
Persons that with a change in administration, we'll be able to address this problem and address it adequately. But the other issue in the constituency, you know, the roads have been really dug up, and I'm not sure what's going on. Just recently I passed a stack of steel which had already been tied together and which was just lying there in the bush. I'm wondering, you know, who's paying for that?
Wow.
The other thing is that we're noticing that there's a lot of stagnant water now, and there doesn't seem to be any arrangement for that water to drain off. So it's creating a major problem as far as mosquitoes are concerned. So a lot of people are also complaining bitterly about the mosquitoes. And perhaps what people are complaining about most is the fact that there's been no consultation.
Yes.
People's lives have been severely disrupted with the digging up of the roads. And there's been just no consultation. You wake up in the morning and you meet the whole place completely turned topsy-turvy, upside down. So we just waiting for a change of doing business. The way in which we had it many years ago as a community where the streets were named, all the street names are now down. We'll get them back up. And one thing about our constituency that I feel very good about is that every single street in the constituency is named. So there's no way that you can just not know where you are or in giving directions. But the problem is, the names were put up and the streets were named during our time. And now you have a problem where the names are down and some people come to live in the area and they're not even sure what the name of the street is. But all of these things, we're going to make sure that we get the community back up, get the place clean. That's another big complaint, that the place is just not what it used to be. We used to have a water truck that used to hose down the gutters and keep the place clean. That's no longer the case. So most people